impact it has on human beings. Normally, when you have a charge like kidnapping, rape, murder, they are such grave charges. But most of the cases that I have, thank goodness, the detectives take the time to investigate the case, interview the person who has been alleged to have done that information, or at least reach out to them, and then issue an arrest warrant, which did not happen here, which blows my mind.
So why do you think, because I interviewed Ashley Merchant here on Sidebar, and she basically is like, if you look at the footage, there's no episode of alleged kidnapping. What is the disconnect here? Why would law enforcement say that there was? And I know that when I spoke with Ashley, they had made the argument that maybe that footage had been tainted in a way, spliced in a way, edited in a way. But to present this to a grand jury and get back an indictment, they must feel there's something here. I don't know what the disconnect is.
Well, remember, I'm born and bred criminal defense attorney, so I don't know how on earth they indicted this case. But we learned in law school you could indict a ham sandwich, so it's easy to secure an arrest warrant. I don't think the general public needs to know that because it would scare all of us. And I've been hearing comments about how, we'll never help anyone in need ever again, so that we don't interact to get into our situations like poor Mr. Patel here. I don't want that. I want us to live a moral life and help others. So this one is a very jarring case for me because he was just helping.
Mm-hmm. By the way, totally off topic, but another serious issue happening right now. Can we talk for a second about debt? Yeah, debt doesn't just show up one day. It builds little by little. Credit cards, car loans, medical bills. Suddenly, you're juggling payments. You're feeling stuck. Here's the good news. We got American Financing as our sponsor. So they help homeowners like you every day. They use your home's equity and they roll that high-interest debt into one simple, affordable payment. They are saving homeowners an average of $800 a month. There's no judgment. There's no pressure. Just real solutions that put you back in control. It starts with one call. Only takes 10 minutes to get started, and there are no upfront fees, so it costs nothing to find out how much you can save. And if you start today, by the way, you may be able to delay your next 2 mortgage payments. American Financing salary-based consultants are ready to listen. They're ready to help. Take back your peace of mind with American Financing. Call American Financing today at 866-891-2821.
How's everyone doing this morning?
866-891-2821, or head over to americanfinancing.net/sidebar. So let's talk about this bail hearing. We have clips from it. So during the bail hearing, defense attorney Ashley Merchant was given the opportunity to argue for release. Take a look.
Judge, we are here because the state has accused Mahendra Patel, and he goes by Mick, but Mick Patel, of, at first it was kidnapping, and then it moved to attempted kidnapping. So he was arrested on March 21st of 2025 for an incident that allegedly happened at a local Walmart on March 18th. The officer took out a warrant for kidnapping, not attempted, assault, and battery. Subsequently, the state indicted that case on April 3rd. We had a bond and probable cause hearing scheduled for April 16th, but when the state indicted it, they indicted it for attempted kidnapping, and then misdemeanor assault and misdemeanor bond. So we were not able to have that bond hearing. Mr. Patel was not given bond at first appearance. At that time, he was charged with kidnapping of a minor.
Okay, so a little bit of procedural history. Now, according to Merchant, despite Miller's claims that Patel had tried to take her toddler, she continued to interact with him. Take a look.
He interacted with Ms. Miller 3 times after she claims that he snatched her baby. There were lots of employees around, lots of people around for all of these interactions. Nobody stopped. Nobody says anything. There was a gentleman within arm's reach. Nothing. Nobody screams. Ms. Miller waited 5 full minutes to actually tell a Walmart employee. The employee had to try to convince her to call the police. We've interviewed this employee, said it was very surprising, didn't know why she didn't want to call the police. She just wanted to report it to Walmart. She waited a full 30 minutes to actually call the police. She was outside with her father and called and said, hey, I'm sorry it took me so long to call you, but I got my baby back.
Okay, so Merchant helped the judge to try to better understand what they claim are the facts of this case by showing surveillance footage from Walmart, which she claims she obtained via a subpoena. Now, the state objected, arguing that this was supposed to be just a simple hearing, not a full-blown trial. Take a look.
And if you want to go ahead and start playing that, and then I can show you the exact interaction.
If I could be heard, this isn't a trial, it's a bond hearing, and so I would encourage the court to consider the legal bond considerations. I'm not sure that this is pertinent to that. If they want to submit this for the court review if they believe that they can articulate why it's pertinent.
Hey
to the
guys,
issue
how's
of
everybody
just the
doing this
narrow issue we
morning?
have today. I can understand that, and we can have that discussion. But if we're just playing videos to try the case in a bond hearing, the state would object to that. It's not relevant.
You have a relevancy objection.
Judge, I can't imagine anything that's more relevant than a video of the alleged incident. If you were trying to determine bond and you had a video of what the accused is accused of doing, that could potentially be the most relevant information you would ever have in a bond hearing, whether or not someone actually did what they're accused of. And the other thing is the state has alleged that he fled. That's been alleged from the beginning by the police. There's no, part of the bond factors, significant risk of fleeing or failure to appear in court. No. Is he a danger or a threat to anybody?
How is everybody? Y'all are quiet.
Is he at risk of committing any future felonies? No. I mean, I think it's highly relevant, and I would imagine the court would want to see this.
Well, I'll overrule the objection. As I read the pleadings, I looked at it as possible evidence that he would come to court, that he is not a flight risk. Of course, I haven't seen the video, right? So I don't know what it's going to show me, but I'll let you do that. And just so everybody knows, I have my own monitor down here. I'm not staring at the floor.
Okay, Meg, let's start there. Do you think that was the right decision by the judge to say, you know what, this evidence should be considered at a bond hearing? Because you don't want a bond hearing to be like a mini trial, but...
Hey, David, how are you?
Directly to the main issues that we're talking about, danger to the
The girl's
community,
about to roll up a
flight risk, things like that.
blunt.
You think it's relevant?
Listen,
Maybe
I
it's done.
teach evidence, I teach trial techniques, I teach how to practice in courtrooms. Ashley Merchant was picturesque, okay? The reason I say that is that we have a thing called Ayala factors. It's a global concept around the United States where we have factors. In Georgia, we call them Ayala factors. But it is the seriousness of the charges, relevancy, and it's the risk to flee, risk to reoffend. And we have them, we can say them off the top of our head because we do this every day. I'm shocked that prosecutor said that. And
I'm just listening to some true crime right now. What are you doing, David?
Objection here. And I really thought that was perfect because when we are in court, we listen to the cues the judge gives us. The judge basically said, you're going to win this one. And then she offered look, these are the factors I need to argue. And seriousness of the charge is one of them. Hello. And then the risk to flee or to risk to reoffend. Hello. Is indicative of what he does in this Walmart video. So, of course, she let it in. Sorry, I got a little upset on that one because this one really, really, really peeves me off that prosecutor got up and objected there.
Let me ask you this, and I wonder if somebody is going to watch this video, not entirely familiar with the legal process, and say, well, if at this bond hearing the judge looks at the video and says, I don't see a crime, could he unilaterally dismiss the case right then and there or no?
Great question. I mean, if you think about common sense, how cool would it be? He'd be like, this is crazy. What are we all doing here? Bye-bye. Let's shut the door. No. Unfortunately, it's the district attorney who brought the charges. It's the district attorney who needs to dismiss the charges. And that's separate and distinct from the civil world. So this is the criminal world. The criminal
Ooh, getting ready for work.
These felony charges.
Sounds
They
exciting.
indict them on these charges. As you heard, they're slightly amended. And then they're the ones who Ms. Merchant believes will be dismissed, and I do too.
Okay, good to know, good to know. Okay, so now we broke down this surveillance video in full alongside Ashley Merchant in a separate episode of Sidebar. I encourage everybody to go check it out on the Long Crime YouTube channel, but I want to quickly go through with it now. So at around 8:16 p.m. on March 18th, you can see Mahendra Patel enter the Walmart. Wanders around the aisles in the pharmacy section, presumably looking for the Tylenol that he needs. And then he soon spots Caroline Miller, who's riding in one of the store's motorized scooters with one child in her lap, the other at her feet. Now, Miller has since admitted that she's not disabled, doesn't need the scooter, but her children like to ride in it. Patel says he asked Miller where the medicine was. And as they turn into an aisle, something happens. The angle obscures the interaction, but Miller claims that Patel tried to grab her son. Now, the footage doesn't seem to show a struggle. Patel claims he was trying to prevent her son from falling off the scooter. He eventually finds the Tylenol, walks calmly to the checkout, even indicating to Miller that he got what he was looking for, and she gave him a thumbs up. Checks out at the register, pays with his debit card, pauses to chat with an employee before exiting the store. Nothing that, might suggest he was fleeing the scene, as has been suggested. At least that's my point of view. But according to Merchant, Her team has spoken with 2 people who saw at least parts of the interaction between Miller and Patel. Let's listen.
There's 2 alleged witnesses, the Walmart employee and Mr. Leyva. Mr. Leyva is mentioned on the warrant.
No, he definitely did it. You at that angle it was at.
They'd seen a kidnapping and assault and
It was his back turned to the camera, and the woman with the kid was in front of him, but you could see him trying to pull it.
Lots of people around.
Something, and her pulling back.
The employee said that Mr. Patel was a friendly older gentleman, was very friendly with her, kind of gave her like a hug almost, like she was so happy when she finally helped him find the Tylenol. She said that she didn't know what was going on with Miss Miller, but she's not permitted to ask what her handicap is, but she said it was suspicious that she didn't scream, call 911, anything like that. And then Mr. Leyva, the gentleman in the orange shirt that you saw, again, he said that Mr. Patel lifted the child like the child's father, and that Miss Miller sort of pulled back the child. There was no tug of war. Mr. Leyva actually was mistaken and thought it was the younger child that all this was happening with. He was kind of confused, but the one thing he was sure about was that there was no attempted abduction, and had he seen anything like that, he was close enough that he would have stepped in and done something.
How important, Meg, is witness testimony for the sake of this bail hearing, and also, just by the way, the case in general?
Corroboration. It's corroboration. Because remember, we have pictures, we have videos, we have timelines, we have all those things. Then if you have eyewitnesses to say, this is what I saw, this is what I perceived, this is what I felt, I was able to kind of judge how she was behaving, these kinds of things. And then the kids underneath the chair and all the things now running into, pulling into or backing into a display. Why is she writing this to begin with? And that kind of, all of that just corroborates everything. Now, I want to point out the Tylenol aspect. That's the story he gave from the get-go.
Hey, Kate.
Okay, and then it's corroborated. In theory, we don't have the evidence yet, but in theory, it's corroborated by texts to his daughter saying, is this the right kind of Tylenol I need to get? And that's corroborated by the Walmart employee who said, I was asking about that. And then it's corroborated by the video where you say, when you show him interacting initially.
Hi, Kate. Oh, did I already say that?
He waves it in front of him.
What's
says,
up?
I found these specific Tylenol type.
Guys, don't forget to hit the like
so
button.
All of it is what we call corroboration.
Well, let me tell you what happened next, too. So Merchant then addressed something that was very important to the issue of bond. Patel's criminal history. Watch.
Judge, I anticipate the state's probably going to focus a lot on Mr. Patel and his prior record. Mr. Patel has a conviction from a 2006 conspiracy. It's a Class E felony for those that don't really practice in federal court, myself included. I had to call the federal defender to explain how it all works to me. A Class E felony is sort of like our high and aggravated misdemeanor. It's a 1 to 5 type of offense. It's a conspiracy. He accepted responsibility for his role in a 2006. It was a white collar case. It's a conspiracy, and the allegations, I was able to get the transcript and get the indictment and get the plea recommendation and all of that. Mr. Patel and another gentleman who was one of his neighbors, Mr. Obleton, they essentially contacted a company and they were asking for rewards to get a contract for a school, public school system's IT system. So at the time, Mr. Patel was an engineer. And he entered into a sales agreement in early 2007, whereby he would get a 3.9% commission for if this company got the sales agreement, the IT agreement to do the IT stuff for the school system. In March of 2008, he did receive a sales commission for this. And so those are the 3 overt acts for his role in the conspiracy. I wanted to make sure I knew that so that I could explain, the depth of it, because I assumed it would be a big deal to the state. Everything else was contributed to Mr. Obleton, but Mr. Patel helped the government convict Mr. Obleton. In exchange for that, he was granted leniency. He pled to the Class E felony. It's considered the least serious of all federal crimes. He paid all of the money back, not just the money that he gained. He actually paid Mr. Obleton's money back also, and the case was terminated early. So we would actually submit that shows that he is in compliance with court orders and helps with bond, because not only did he pay what he owed, but he paid what Mr. Obleton owed the government back. He reimbursed them in due course early, and his probation was early terminated. He has another case from 2020, a reckless driving conviction. In that case, he accepted responsibility for the reckless driving. He completed all of the conditions that the court asked him, and he actually did such a good job and did it so early that his probation was early terminated after just 6 months. He has a pending 2005 DUI less safe. It's a non-test case. It is, he was arrested, and I was able to pull the reports. He was arrested, and the probable cause was the odor of alcoholic beverages emanating from his breath and his bloodshot eyes. He was arrested, and he was released on bond. He is currently on that bond.
No.
And, I'm not sure if the state will make a big deal out of that or not. Ms. Miller has a conviction for DUI. Mr. Patel does not. But again, he complied with that court order, early terminated, did a great job. So as far as bond, the last thing I wanted to point out to the court is my client's ties to the community. Judge, my client, he's got friends. He actually has friends here that he grew up with and went to high school with in India that have flown in for this bond hearing. They're here in this courtroom. We have over 100 people in court. We have over 150 downstairs. There's a lot more online.
Meg, first let's start there. Does it matter how many people come into support for somebody during a bond hearing? Does that affect the judge's analysis or no? Let's just start there.
It always helps to have people. 100. What she was trying to imply is that there's been overwhelming a number of folks who've come to support him, and this is true. In general, I usually have mom, dad, brother, wife, son, daughter, whatever, family members, a couple. Because you generally, and I'm just going to tell you from my experience, don't want to have too many folk because then it does annoy the court system.
Yeah, it would.
Just like you'll hear here, you can hear from any of them. And I'm happy to bring any of these people up to show the ties of the community. But I'm a proffer on my own that all of those folks are here as a system of support, and he has significant ties to the community. The significant ties to the community is one of the factors the judge must consider when doing bond.
What about his criminal record? So on one hand, because look, they raised issues that were unrelated crimes, right? Crimes that are not connected to alleged kidnapping or attempted kidnapping. However, criminal record's criminal record.
Yes, and I think this is. Look, I'm only going to pontificate here. I don't want to put any thought processes into the police officers, but I do think this is one of the thought processes that they looked at it. They ran his background, and they saw he had one, and a significant one in the sense of your everyday average American doesn't have too many criminal
anymore. You could have the rest of it.
Okay, thanks.
Law in addition to state law, and if you have a conspiracy charge for fraud, that's not a good look. Okay, so he has that as a strike against him, and then he has the reckless driving that may or may not have been reduced down from something else. I didn't have a chance to look up his criminal history, and then thirdly, he has the pending charge. So when the police officers from Ackworth Police Department ran his background, they may have jumped.
Are y'all gonna talk?
That he had some
I
issues,
quiet as
and
fuck.
therefore he might be doing something bad here. I'm not talking about the hearing. I'm just talking in general. Now, with respect to the criminal hearing that we're at, yes. The risk to reoffend is another factor. So the fact that he's offended in the past means he could offend in the future. And Ashley is simply anticipating what the prosecution will say in their argument. And then she did a fantastic job. I'm going to use the word minimizing his criminal history.
So let's talk about that. So Merchant requested a $10,000 bond for Patel's release. It was the state's turn to argue its position, which is that Patel should be denied release. According to prosecutor Jesse Evans, technically under the law, Patel's rights were not being violated despite what seemed like a delay in getting to a pretrial release hearing. Take a look at this.
A defendant is not entitled to bond as a matter of right on felony offenses that are under 90 days before indictment. In this case, indicted within that 90-day period to alleviate any concerns about the bond. So I say all that to say to the court that defendant is not entitled to bond as a matter of right. As we sit here today, it's entirely discretionary for the court whether or not to grant a bond, and that is where we stand. Is that it is within the court's discretion to grant a bond, but you are absolutely not required to grant a bond because we have moved expeditiously to make sure that the defendant was afforded his opportunity in court by indicting him in a timely fashion.
Now, Evans also acknowledged that there's already a lot of information out there about this case, but he pointed out some concerning moments in the surveillance video.
I know there's a narrated, edited version that was presented, by the defense, and sure, the state would say if you don't take a closer look, it might cause concerns. But when you do take a closer look, you can see him tugging on this child, and there's the legs, before mom is able to regain control. The state's not oblivious to the fact that this is a very bizarre set of circumstances. Nonetheless, this defendant reached down and grabbed a 2-year-old child from the lap of a woman in a Walmart at 8:30 at night and attempted to pull that child from her lap. The facts are not governed by the state here. The facts are governed by the choices of this particular defendant on this particular night, at this particular public Walmart, as he encroached on the space of this mother and her two children. I will tell you that there was an employee that told the police that the defendant also touched her and that he said something.
I don't know yet, baby.
Loved her. There is some evidence of apparent intoxication on the defendant's
He admitted.
Guys, I'm gonna restart again. I'll be right back.
Prosecution, take a look.